finally got the alternator. Now we just need to see if we can put it back in. Now it's been about how many days? 2 days since the last part. I don't remember exactly what I said and did in the last part, but I think I start to mention that the tensioner for this alternator pulley is gonna be that's the kind of difficult part for me now. And the reason is that I have made most of this stuff without this part, the engine mount, but the engine bracket on the engine side and everything I made myself, fabricated and welded. And I didn't take into consideration that the tensioner, this thing, needed to be able to swing up in order to lose tension when you want to take on or off the belt. So I'm not able to take it fully up to loosen the tension. I managed to get the tensioner, remove it fully to make the belt come loose, and now I need to see if I can make it put everything back on. If not, I need to just do it. But if not, like the worst case, I need to take everything apart, like the gearbox, engine, drive shaft, radiator, intercooler, everything. Take the engine out, mount it, take everything back in. So that's I should have thought of that when I made but yeah, live and learn. Finally, it's back together. It's on. Now it's just the rest. Wire up this, put the intake on, the harness. Yeah, different vacuum lines. That's it. Maybe we can have a test. Start up, see if it will. Jesus, this is too bright. See if it will run, or I guess it would run but charge. To have 14 volts, 13, 14. If you recognize this bracket, if you don't recognize this bracket, it's the one that goes from this pipe down to and mounted to the tensioner, the same bolts. But since I actually got the bolts on, I don't want to loosen them, so I cut it like this. So the bolts will hopefully be able to kind of slide over and on the bolts, and that will be more than enough to hold this line for coolant for the turbo. That's where this line is. So now I think everything should be connected. I plugged everything in. Okay, so since I don't do this every other day no more, I need to there was a time when I did take in and out the engine, like it felt like every second day. One day in, next day out, one day in, next day out. Now, okay, so the alternator, it's hooked up, the tensioner is hooked up, and it's tightened, everything. Intake is tightened, injectors, the cam angle, cam sensor is connected, throttle body. TPS is connected with the different vacuum lines. It's connected. I guess we can give it a try. actually not that surprising when I think about it. If I remember correct, the last time I drove it in, it barely started, so battery, and I haven't been charging it, so the battery is probably close to zero. Let's try again. So it started, but I think I'm gonna let it stay on for charging for some time before I try again. But yeah, it was starting, which is a good sign. Now, Eric, you need to fix this car. No. Yes. Lynette, his wife, you need to make Eric fix his car. This car. So he can move this car on to that place, and I plan to have this car running so I can go in and out, because now there is a 90 in the way. Actually, I don't mind to have this 90 here, but there's also drag race, and I filmed this. It's 3 weeks, close to 3 weeks, maybe a bit less, this drag race, and I guess Eric wants this car running. But Eric, if you watch this, it's a bit typical that you fix the car the night before the drag race, so you spend a lot of time on this car, but the silver one don't get so much attention, and then of course you drive it like you stole the car, this black one, and then you break it. Maybe before you break this one, maybe just back in the car, back with the old, very old Windows machine, this, like so. This one, this is the one we want. So now it's still charging, so it shows 13.3. Of course it didn't work fully. The situation, the status now. The alternator does not have any sparks like my old one did have. The new alternator doesn't give any sparks and doesn't have this sound which the old one had, but it still does not charge. Hope it's a pretty obvious reason. I hope that it's the fact that I haven't wired in the alternator. I thought, you know, not all alternators needs to be wired in. For example, the one on the black 90 Quattro, it works fine without wiring. And the one I had, VR6 engine, this also was charging without being wired in. I was kind of not hoping. I was actually expecting the same to be with this engine. Like maybe it won't charge like right the very moment I start the engine, but like give it some seconds or maybe a minute or something, and then it will kind of start to charge. And I can't remember if my old one did, and it needs to have, the old one needs to have been charging. No, it was, I can't remember if the old one like have been fine or if it's always been low on charging. So I've spent a lot of time now while the charger is connected to the battery, and I spent a lot of time searching for how to wire up alternator. I think I have found kind of how to do it, because at least this is not the alternator is not exactly the same as I have on the photo, but it's this principle. And this alternator only have 2 pins to it, and the one closest to the radiator is supposed to be blue, according to this guy who messaged me from Netherlands on Instagram. Thanks for the help if you watch this, it's really appreciated. This guy also apparently have a 1.8 turbo in a Mk1 also. I'm not going to be able to wire this today, this afternoon. Been a long day, been at work, and then I'm gonna solve this another day. this probably, hopefully, the reason why my car is not charging. So it's another day, same shit, different day. I need to hook up the alternator. I like this part. I forgot if I talked about this in this video because it's been a few days. I need to find this connector in the harness. I have two harnesses. One is from the S3 and the other one is from a Mk1 Golf AWD engine. Don't remember if both use the same connectors for the alternator, but I'm gonna look in the AWD harness first because that's the harness I have already starting to cut up to use there. And also I put a story up on Instagram to ask if anybody knows how to wire this, since every single wire in the car I have wired myself. That goes for the brake lights and all the lights. It doesn't help me if you like the schematic for the stock wiring. I need, because I don't need to know where to wire it. I need to know how to wire it. It's a difference. So there was actually two guys who was I think was very helpful. One from Netherlands, maybe you're watching. If so, thank you. Dankeschön. No, that's German. And another one guy, which is probably not watching this, but I'm part of this car club, which you have to pay a yearly fee to be part of, like officially. We had a lot of members who are really not members. Difficult to say, but Eric is kind of one of them. He's always in the meets and such, but he's not officially a member anymore. I don't know how to describe this, but you know, like, do you remember forums on the internet, like car forums? If you don't remember, then you are born after the year 2000, is my guess. But car forums was a huge thing, and there was so much information on there. I don't know how to tell, but maybe there is still some place for car forums, because this other guy on this Norwegian Volkswagen Audi Club forum, because I was like, okay, I still have the membership. It lasts for 1 year at a time. So I wrote down situation, what I needed help with, and this guy wrote me like in very simple form what I need to do and how to test if it's correct the way I did it. So I think, so maybe, I don't know, maybe forums still have its place. It's just that what's it called, when their time when they were really popular and really a lot of people used it, their peak has passed, but we others, maybe it still has its place, what I'm trying to say. I hope so, kind of, but in another way I don't think so. What do you think? Do you think forum still has its place? If you're wondering, like, how do I know which one is for the alternator? The answer is I don't know. So I have been wiring this engine by myself, so I kind of know to which area of the engine bay it has potential, maybe. Also maybe. Okay, so I know this is for the coils. Should not be this one. So I think this is the one. It really doesn't matter as long, for me, it doesn't matter, because as long as this connector is the correct one, I'm just gonna cut the wires and then test. Because what I was told, one of the schematics I saw a picture of when I was searching for the wiring schematics for the alternator, is that one of the wires should be blue, and one of these, it's blue. If you didn't, it's blue. If people on the internet are telling the truth, when I do the blue one, according to one guy, should be the one closest to the front of the car, which should also be the one which starts the alternator. So let's see. Fuck's sake, do people on the internet lie? Jesus. Can't trust anybody. Never mind. I was just, instead of looking at it this way, so it was like in the mirror. I'm sorry. I believe all of you on the internet. Always. I mean, it was a joke. Of course I believe you. I never doubted you. Well, I mean, why would you not tell me the truth all the time when I ask? Yeah, I know it looks ugly, but I will do it. I will fix it someday, I promise. I mean, since you don't lie to me, I won't lie to you. I promise I will fix it. You don't have to remind me every 6 months. Have you ever wondered why people are kind of afraid to build harnesses? It's not as bad as it looks like. I guess if people watching this, they probably know they will have to do this someday, or they have already done it. So this other connector was not quite correct. This is the correct one. Yeah, there is a difference. There is a difference to them. This is the one I'm gonna use. Unfortunately, I would love to have this, all of this in one piece. I don't know why. No, I feel like it kind of has potential. So this is the one. I'm gonna cut this plastic fabric thing so the wires would be a bit longer. While I'm doing this, do you think that car forums are you old enough to experience car forums? Is your experience the same as mine? They are all dead, or not? Maybe not all, but I guess it's a bit like I'm old enough to remember MySpace, but I didn't have MySpace. But I guess it's kind of the same thing, maybe. The blade was not sharp enough to cut myself that deeply. You know what I'm gonna do for once? I'm gonna actually write down the number for take a picture of the plug and the number. So, because I will try to write down all the wiring I've done to the car. Till now I have been writing down all what I've been wiring, almost. In the engine, the light I have not written it down, but for the rest, the engine, I have schematics for all of it. So I will do the same with this one. So this is, according to you, yes, some of you, 1-2 of you on the internet, this is how I should do it. The car is now, the battery is charging, so I'm gonna start the car. I'm gonna make sure the car is running. So I may need to open the door to the workshop. So I'm gonna open the door and then I'm gonna start the car. I'm gonna make sure it's running for a few minutes to know it's been warmed up at least a bit. And then I'm gonna turn off the charger, measure if the alternator is charging. Should be not charging, should be around 11 volts, maybe 12 even. And then I'm going to put one of the wires to 12 volts, if I understand. Or it should be to ground. I think it should be to 12 volts, and then it's kind of to enable the alternator to start charging. So then I should measure 14 volts. It would be super dobre. Let's go, давай. Knife was sharp enough to cut me just a bit. It's just annoying, you know? Doesn't hurt, it's just annoying that. It did work, watch this. It did work. So that's good. Now I trust you on the internet, people on the internet. You have my full support every time. I think the wire, which is now on my alternator, it's closest to the front of the car. This wire is the one which needs the 12 volts in order to enable the alternator to charge. The other one, which is not blue, the not blue wire is, if I understand correctly, is for like the warning light in your dash. It's not charging or something. So the blue wire is the one which needs 12 volts. This is note to myself, I need to write it down. I'm now going to splice this wire and wire this into the car, into my ignition. So when I turn on the ignition and start the car, that's when the alternator will be enabled. The charging would be enabled. So this is good. We're making progress. Finally, some progress. Cheers to progress. And you got something on you, on the lens. I need to wipe this off before you get all sticky. You look gorgeous. It's working, finally.